We are elated. We're ecstatic. We're filled with joy to present another story to the people of Davidson County from Wishing Chair Productions, the Nashville Public Library, the National Public Libraries Foundation, to offer another story that can be found in the libraries, whether it be here at Maine or branches or even school libraries. We're here to introduce Goldilocks to the citizens.
Oh, hello down there. You know, when you spend your days soaring high above the treetops, you see all kinds of stories just flutter to life beneath your wings. Why, just the other day, I glided past Little Red Riding Hood trotting through the woods. Sweet kid, very bright outfit. And Hansel and Gretel, those two are always leaving snack trails. The forest squirrels think it's a buffet. But it's not just the forest I fly over. Oh no! Sometimes, when the wind is just right, I flap my way straight over to the Nashville Public Library, and oh me, oh my, do I love what I see there. Down in that magical place, the marvelous folks at Wishing Chair Productions are always crafting stories, building puppets, and sprinkling imagination like confetti. I perch on the windowsill sometimes, quiet as a feather, and I watch them bring entire worlds to life. And every story, whether it's in the forest or at the library, carries a lesson tucked inside it. Which brings us to today's tale, one I've had a front feather view of. It's all about a curious girl named Goldilocks, who learns that wandering into someone else's house and fiddling with their things is, well, not exactly good manners. So, fluff your feathers, adjust your imaginary seat, and get cozy, because today's story is about respect, responsibility, and finding what's just right. Ready, friends? Then let's glide right into the story behind the story of Goldilocks.
I think the folk tales, they're in some ways very similar to what we have now, and then in some ways they're completely, like where are you going to ever go into a bear's home and there's a bowl of porridge? You know, the make-believe world is so wonderful and so attractive. You know, I guess the folk tales that we're doing are the folk tales that have survived, and they're the ones that were, I guess, good enough to still be around. There might be hundreds of folk tales that aren't being told anymore because they weren't very good, but we're doing ones that are good and that we think that people will enjoy. I think the lessons that we try to incorporate in them are also important.
That was an amazing, amazing story with all kinds of good morals. I'm actually just visiting and stumbled upon this amazing library and was lucky enough to be able to catch a show here. The puppeteers were incredible. I'm 70 years old, watching my little grandson who's 4 years old. I've never seen a puppet show like that before. The fact that you could see the two guys up there and how they were manipulating the puppets was as entertaining and as educational to me as it was to my little 4-year-old grandson. So bravo to whoever was responsible for this. We sure enjoyed it.
It was amazing. It was hilarious. The puppets are adorable and the music phenomenal. It was a great show.
We loved Goldilocks here at the Nashville Public Library. The Wishing Chair Productions does such an amazing job. The characters were engaging. There were songs. The kids were bopping and dancing the whole show. They were engaged through the duration of the about 30-minute show. It was fantastic.
Just bringing together the Nashville community and the great focus on the puppetry arts and just a place to just grow and be a part of storytelling as a family.
The message, I believe, it rings true. I think they tap into elements within the society that can benefit us as a people. They tell us, they teach us to be thoughtful, they teach us to be considerate, they present actions on stage, and one of the beautiful things about puppetry is that a young audience can see these puppets follow through the actions of these characters and learn a lesson without actually living those lessons out. I think authors of old, they presented us a wonderful opportunity by giving us a wide variety of different themes, different morals, different ideas that will benefit not us as just individuals, but us as a community as well. Because when we adopt those lessons, when we consider those things, we're able to make our community a whole lot better.
I thought the themes about asking permission and being cautious but also curious was very good, and just like teaching those lessons at a very young age.
They did a really good job of like asking before using.
Ask permission and be respectful and kind and aware of where you're going and what you do and how you treat other people.
Not to do something without asking.
In the story, normally the bears are pretty upset somebody's in their house, and in this story, of course, they were upset when the chair was broken, but then when they found Goldilocks in the bed, they were actually concerned about hurting her or scaring her. So I thought even though somebody had, not asked permission to come into their house, they still treated her with kindness and care. So I thought that was a good lesson to be curious about what somebody else is up to before you act unkindly.
I learned that there are wonderful new ways to interpret a story that you've heard hundreds of times, and it's just always about the way that you tell the story, not just about the story itself.
I think Brett's vision for this piece was really beautiful in that it's colorful and cheerful, and what would otherwise could be kind of a boring story is really brought to life, not just with the story and the music, but also with all of these scenic elements. Like the woodland creatures, I remember he said they don't have to be the colors that they are in life. This is a fairy tale, and so he gave me kind of permission to make a magenta squirrel and a turquoise rabbit so that we have all of these bright colors come to life on stage. So it's this very magical realism kind of feel to it. Which I think is really just enchanting. And you watch the audience and it does feel like there's a sense of magic. And like I said, what could be a kind of pedestrian story has this kind of magical sense to it. I think that comes together with all of these artists contributing to the same story and kind of building off of each other. Like I said, I was kind of building off of what Ruben had painted with my piece and then kind of marrying it so that it would line up with his paintings, and then bringing this woodsy cabin to life with this feel that somehow we had these bears who wood stained their house.
Let me first start off by saying that there is absolutely no way that this could have been achieved without the help of some extremely talented individuals that have poured their imagination, their heart, their sweat, and their time into bringing this story to the masses. My first encounter, I started working with Louise Krause. She is the illustrator. She came up with the concept art for this story, and she drew inspiration from the puppets that Tom Tischner created. Working with her was an absolute pleasure. Telling her what the vision was before anything was created. That's where this whole thing started, sitting down with her and just talking with her. What dream, the dream that I had, the dream that existed based on the writing. It was really fantastic working with her, then starting to work with Steve Stokes. He was the musical director and co-composer for this particular story. Working with him, we started talking about music. We started talking about what instruments would represent each character. We started talking about the feel, the emotion. We started talking about the pulses, the energy that should be transferred from scene to scene to scene. And for almost 10 to 11 months, we worked shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, through emails, through phone calls, just talking about music, talking about not the dialogue, but just talking about like the feeling that we wanted to communicate to the audience just through instrumentation. And he was able to bring in some fantastic musicians that really encompassed what we set out to accomplish. Following that, I started working with the fantastic team members here at Wishing Chair Productions to start fashioning the scenery pieces, to start bringing in the essential design elements that would visually make this appealing to the audience. Started working with Pete Carden, Joyce Noel Williams, and Evelyn O'Neill. They've worked many, many hours to craft the different scenery pieces, to craft all of the tangible things, the things that the puppets will interact with, to make them real. They fashioned it out of wood, out of plastic, out of fabric, glue, nail, you name it. They used it in order to bring what was on the page into the real world. I was also then fortunate enough to gather a collection of fantastic vocal talent to voice the characters: Jenny Littleton, Brian Waltman, Courtney Buggs, David Torres Fuentes, and I also lent my voice in this production. But working together, rehearsing, talking about the ideas behind the lines, the reasoning behind why things are said, giving them context, subtext, giving them the intention, working and rehearsing with them. After working with the vocal talent, I was then able to start working hand in hand with Travis Humbert, who is the engineer, the vocal engineer for this particular story. Working with him, we were able to go into the recording studio and session upon session record all of the dialogue, talk to him about the musical elements, the world, bringing in different sound effects, to put all of this together and to adjust different volumes, to adjust the feel of the story. Working with him, and all of them has been an absolute pleasure, and we all should be proud of this very, very beautiful story that citizens have a chance to experience for free, I might add.
I thought it was amazing. It was really cute, and I love seeing like the puppets and the set and all of that, and it was so fun to watch it all, and especially like watching the hands above move the puppets. It was really cool.
Yes, I love today's show.
I thought it was great. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
You know, my job is to advocate this institution, and I'm part of a team that you know, I try to help the team make that a successful mission, and Goldilocks is just one tool in our arsenal to be able to do that. It's a nice new original puppet show that we put together as a team, and I got to help with the look of it and build a lot of the set pieces and moving parts, and then I also get to work with Brett, who directed the show, get to work alongside of him operating the marionettes and making the story come to life.
So I was really excited when Brett came to me and told me that they were going to be doing Goldilocks. It's a story that I've always loved, and we were just really excited at NECAT to put it on television. Wishing Chair has been just a really special place in my heart over the last 20 years. Whenever my kids were little, I used to bring them to the shows and have just enjoyed all of the talents that all of these people have. And in the last few years, we've had opportunities at NECAT to work with puppeteers on different smaller projects, but this was kind of the first time that we kind of just talked about, like, what if we put the show together and kind of captured it from the front all the way to the end? And we were able to bring in a group of volunteers that had gone through our NECAT training along with our technicians that work at the studio to really put something together special. So while if you were to go see the show in the space, you're going to get a wonderful show. But for television's sake, we had to start thinking through the process of what can we do different, or what can we add to this that you couldn't see on the stage? Just like we added a bedroom that wasn't there before, and you know, you see them come up to the top of a tree trunk, and we kind of get to see those lines where if you saw it in the Playhouse, you saw it off screen. You know, we were kind of able to kind of add to the ending a little bit by when Goldilocks jumps out the door in the theater, that's the last time you see her. We don't know what happened to her, but for our sake, we were able to add a shot to it and kind of show that she's safe and sound and just getting away at that point. So we were just really happy to kind of think through those processes, and Brett was the whole time with us, like looking at it and kind of, we're talking about the ideas of what could happen, and again, like what can we build out in the room, because we shot this in front of an audience to kind of get the feel, because there's an energy that happens in that space. But we also took some time to shoot it again in a closed quarter setting where we could build some things out a little bit differently, and we could talk through it, just the puppeteers talking through it with me about like what can we get on this that I get in spots we couldn't get because there's usually an audience there, and get the puppeteers in places that they're not usually at or comfortable because they can't perform it over and over that way, but they can do it once for television's sake. And I think because of that, there's something really special that we've created here.
One of the very first characters that you're going to encounter is Feathers. A blue jay, you're not normally going to find that in the story of Goldilocks. But Feathers, he ties the moral elements together during different segments of the story. So he's an essential part of the storytelling process that connects directly to the audience. He breaks that fourth wall and talks directly to the audience. In the very, very beginning, in the first song, In This Forest, Goldilocks, in her wide-eyed, free mind, she calls upon the animals of the forest to sing with her, and she calls these different animals together to have this choral experience. But we all know that that doesn't quite happen in the forest. You don't normally see wolves communing with deer and deer communing with squirrels. So we have this moment where she wants this to happen, and we're left with a very, very interesting result. But we do have rod puppets that reflect the different animals in her nature call.
Two main things that I did for Goldilocks. One was building the woodland creatures, which was a big challenge because the puppets had to all come on at the same time. They all had to sing. They all had to sing in groups and be able to sing individually. The piece of music that the woodland creatures are used for, the song says which animals are in there. So it's a lot of animals that all have to come on at once. What I did was I mocked everything up in cardboard. I had to go and see what the proportion was of a deer to a small girl and then measure our Goldilocks and try and get the right proportions, puppet proportions, and then make them small enough that they could all fit on, but make them large enough to be theatrical. And then each of them needed to be able to move individually. So I made the whole thing in cardboard, and then from there created the pieces. You know, there is plenty of trial and error because the weight of cardboard and the weight of the felt and the PVC board are different. While I, in the mock-up, also weighted the puppets, the felt created a new weight, the PVC board and felt together slightly off of the same weight as a cardboard, and the cardboard's really smooth and the felt is not smooth. So I had to get a lot of spacers and things to create the same smooth movement that I got out of the cardboard with the felt and the PVC board. But the piece also had to be able to travel. So that was the next challenge because it needed to be light, it needed to come on stage, and then eventually this piece goes on the puppet truck. So it needed to work both on the larger main stage and on the puppet truck stage. So Brett had suggested that it telescope up for the main stage, and then in order to travel, it needed to be able to fit on the back of our stages. So it telescopes down. And so we took a lot of measuring back and forth to find the right height for performance and the right height for travel. But we also wanted to live with the Tom Tischner world of Goldilocks and the Three Bear puppets that are his. It was suggested to make them out of felt, and then I took it one more step and needle felted the details onto each of the characters so they would have that kind of crafted feel that a lot of his work has, especially his little felt homes and villages. So that's why the puppets are made of felt and then have these kind of needle felted details. And then because the show's a marionette, we went with string mechanisms so that the creatures' mouths would open using the strings. So that's always a fun and wonderful challenge, right? To kind of bridge these two worlds of Tom Tischner's world and the materials that he was using at the time, and to make those things live in the same universe, and also to then make it our own at the same time. So I think that's part of why we have like these 2D felted characters that are strings, but then we also have the beautiful paintings by Ruben Torres. And I used his paintings as the foundation for the paint on the foundation of the platform that the platform puppets are on. So we're marrying Ruben's work with Tom Tischner's kind of felt crafty aesthetic, and then with Brett Wilson's artistic vision and his aesthetic. So it really makes this kind of fantastic collaboration. You get this whole kind of new thing born out of all of these different artists kind of merging together, and I think that's the exciting part.
Then, of course, we have our Goldilocks. She is a free spirit. As we want our children to be free to explore the world, we want them to have all those wonderful experiences, and she does that perfectly in this story. And of course, she learns a very, very valuable lesson. We also have Papa, who is a flamboyant, loud, fun-loving character. Papa in this show, he's the one who's cooking. In a lot of versions, it doesn't pinpoint like who's actually making the porridge. And in the creation of this story, I've always felt that Mama's not going to make that mistake to make it too hot, because this is something that she's always done. Papa, on the other hand, he's showing off, he's having fun. It's more of an exhibition for his son, he's having fun. And by not having that attention to what he's doing is the result of why he has that really, really, really hot porridge.
I think you're going to take this opportunity to make fun of me at what will probably be the longest walk of shame of my life, all so you could keep me out of the kitchen.
I thought the addition of Papa starting out being so excited about his porridge, that was different. And I hadn't really heard that version before. So it was kind of about him just being really excited to feed his baby bear and about his cooking skills. So I thought that was fun.
Then we have Mama, who is the anchor of the family. She is the grounded one. She is the one who really holds things together for the entire family. And she does have a sharp tongue towards Papa, but I think that plays into their dynamic, their relationship. But she is a loving mother to her son, a loving wife, but she loves to have her quick jabs as well.
Nonsense. If it makes you feel better while we're out, we'll grab some of that fresh honey that you like to soothe that burn and get Papa back.
Junior is a mix of both Papa and Mama. Junior is a fun-loving character, wants to explore, wants to be connected to his Papa in his explorations, wants to be connected to all of the adventurous things that Papa does. But at the same time, he has that anchoring quality that the mother has as well. So he is a mix of both mother and the father.
So I was sort of in charge of anything textile based. So in the show, we had a few things that needed to be made from scratch because they're a particular size or shape, or they have a particular function in the show. And so I was in charge of this little teeny tiny puff quilt that sits on Baby Bear's bed, and the tablecloth here, and the rag rug that is sitting on the floor underneath the kitchen table. I also made the curtains that Mama Bear references in the show. She says, if anybody's touched my curtains, she's gonna lose it. So I made her curtains to hang in her windows in her house.
I know one thing. If they've touched my curtains, I'm going to lose it.
I'm happy to say the curtains, Mama Bear's curtains, are in pristine shape, and no one has messed with them. And if somebody touches them, yes, I feel the same way Mama Bear does. She will lose it, and so my time.
My other piece of this project was creating the woodland creatures and then also doing the scenic painting for the set pieces. So just the base scenic painting, which was all woodsy, and this whole thing happens in the wood, and Ruben Torres's gorgeous woodland backdrop was really exciting, and so we had to bring this kind of three-dimensional interior cabin to life on the stage. And so we had thought about staining it, but it would have taken a lot of stain, and we would need to do it outdoors, and there was a lot of challenges to that. So I made some fake stain out of acrylic paint, really watered down acrylic paint, and then really trying to pull where I saw the grain in the wood that we were using and kind of pulled that out and darkened it up to give it a stained feel, and then we covered it with Mod Podge so it would have the same shine as an actual stain. So pieces of that set are stained, and the rest of it is just acrylic paint made to look like a stain.
So there's sort of a couple of quick moments in the show, and especially surrounding this particular bed right here. So usually Baby Bear actually never gets to sit in his bed in the show, so we gave him a moment to do that here, which is really nice. I think he's enjoying it. Goldilocks is the one who ends up in Baby Bear's bed, and then she gets scared and runs away really quickly. So there's a couple of things at play. For us, during the show, we have a very short time as a transition in order to get the Goldilocks puppet into the bed and covered up by the quilt. And she has to sit a particular way. So the quilt needs to be nothing that is going to catch on her strings or on the puppet. It needs to be able to just flip over like that really easily, but stay attached to the bed. So for most of the show, the bed is sitting backstage and the quilt is sitting like this, just over the footboard. We wanted to make sure that it didn't just come off, that it was able to sort of sit where it needed to be. And so I made the quilt with kind of these cutouts to fit the shape of the bed, and you can also button and unbutton these straps that keep it attached to the end of the bed. So that just gives us some flexibility if we ever need to take the quilt fully off, but at least it's going to stay attached where it's supposed to. So the quilt sits there, and then at the right time, one of the puppeteers, it's their job to, during a transition, to take Goldilocks, put the puppet in the bed, and they have to fix her, her control bar a certain way so that it'll kind of stay in place. And then they cover her up with the quilt. There's really not much of her that shows, but we've also got to do it in a way where she's easy to get out of the quilt at the right time. When we get to that part of the show, the part where Goldilocks comes out from under the blanket, both puppeteers have many puppets in their hands. We've got 4 puppets on stage at the time, and so nobody has a set of hands that can actually peel back the covers or do anything like that. So it has to be possible for Goldilocks the puppet to literally be lifted out and for the quilt to sort of fall open. And so that's what we were able to do. Most of the time it got out of the way like it needed to, and then Goldilocks stands in the bed and has her interaction with the bears before running away. There's this really great idea about functionality and story, and I wanted this quilt to have more than just a function. Obviously, it has a very important function in the show. It has to cover up Goldilocks, the intruder, who's laying in the bed. But I also wanted it to be part of the world of the story. I wanted it to tell a particular story about Baby Bear, about the bear family, and I decided, from my point of view, that his mom, Mama Bear, made him this quilt when he was born. This is sort of a direct pull, inspiration-wise, from the concept art and imagery that was used in early days of Goldilocks. We had a wonderful artist, Louise Krause, who drew some images for us, and one image was Goldilocks in the bed with a quilt and the bear family standing around her. And she made that quilt look like a puff quilt, which is what this is. And I saw the picture immediately and I was like, oh, this has to be a puff quilt. Like, I have to make this. I want to match the inspiration images and the promotional material that we're making, and I want to bring that quilt to life. I thought it was really a perfect vision. It's homey, it's cozy. We can imagine that Mama Bear made it for Junior and that it's his childhood quilt. And I really liked that about it.
It was wonderful. It was so great to see them using multiple different styles of puppetry to all together to tell the story. It was great.
In Goldilocks, you're going to encounter 3 different types of puppets. The first, of course, you're going to experience feathers. That's a hand puppet. The hand puppet was created by the founder of our program, Tom Titchener. And by using your hand, you're mainly utilizing only 3 parts. You're using the middle finger, or your pointing finger, or your pinky for the wings, the left and right. The palm, of course, can be used to give depth for the body, but you're utilizing really only 3 fingers to operate feathers. After that, you're introduced to the marionettes. Those are the puppets that were also created by Tom Titchener, Goldilocks, Papa, Junior, and Mama. Those puppets are fashioned by a control bar that is slightly above the character, suspended by strings. And there's strings all over different parts of the body. Strings attached to the hands, the feet, or more importantly, the knees of the puppet, the shoulders, the head, and then the lower back. That allows us, of course, to manipulate the puppet by having it look up, look down, left, right, having the puppet bend at the waist. The puppets are also jointed. That means that they pretty much move the same way that we do. If we lift our hand, we lift our knees will bend, their feet, they will do the same thing. Then, of course, we have the forest creatures in today's show, and those are rod puppets that have, of course, either wires or strings attached to them that allow different parts of their body to move. Those strings are connected to a bar that's above the creatures themselves. By pulling on those different strings or those different wires, we can articulate different parts of their body, whether it's a wing, whether it's a neck, whether it's a head or a foot.
I hadn't seen any of these particular marionettes before, but I've actually studied a lot about the history of Titchener and his puppets, so it was great to see these this time around, and I enjoyed hearing my friends David and Brett doing the voices of some of the bears.
You're standing on a bridge, we call it, the marionette bridge, and there's a wall in front of you, and so the puppets are out in front of the wall, and you're standing back there, reaching around and grabbing a puppet and bringing it out where people can see it. And it's a lot of holding up some weight. These are significant puppets as far as their weight goes, and they're reaching way out for a long period of time. A lot of this set has certain places where the puppets have to be. Sometimes in a puppet show, you can sort of make the puppets be on stage and still in sight, and being in the places that they can be seen and make the story go, where it's comfortable for you or where you're capable of getting them. But in this show, there's a chair that Goldilocks has to sit in, and she has to sit there for a long time. And so I'm a long time holding this puppet out. It's a stretch on your back, it's your shoulders, you're starting to feel, okay, how do I change my position without like moving the puppet around or making it not look correct? It's a good physical challenge, making sure you're stretched out prior and just being hydrated, staying in good shape. Make sure you know what you're going to get into. If you get up there and you're not ready and you get a cramp or you lose your grip or something in front of a live audience, that's going to be bad.
I think puppetry on camera it's a different thing than doing in the space, because you're dealing with just what's inside that little square box. And it's like I have been a fan of puppetry my entire life. It's one of those things that I really studied the idea of, like, what makes it funny. Of course, Jim Henson did all the things that he did with puppetry, but here we're dealing with marionettes and the idea that, like, their mouths don't always move, but they move for you in your mind because you see them. So it's the idea of, like, how close can we get a close-up before you see that the mouth doesn't move and the imagination part doesn't, come through completely. But in my mind, it's like it's a different thing, because you can again put the camera in all these different spaces. You can put the puppets in places where it doesn't make sense on the stage, but for the proximity to the camera, you get something drastically different for television than you would get if you're in the room. And again, you can be anywhere in the space through the edit, where instead of sitting in one space and see it all from one angle, you get to see the show from all different sides, and I think that's pretty special. The other thing about this that really works out is, like, we're able to do this for posterity. So, like, all of these wonderful shows that Wishing Chair puts on, they're only available for a few weeks, and you have to come downtown and park your car and get a chance to see them. But now, through NECAT, we're able to put these on television, and people at home are going to be able to watch them for years to come. Also, it's going to be a snapshot in time to see kind of what did that show look like whenever someone may come back around to this years from now to do another presentation of Goldilocks, and kind of see what this version of Wishing Chair did with the Titchener puppets as opposed to what they'll be doing down the line later. And I think that's really exciting.
I mean, that's the fun part, right? Is that, who knows? Titchener may have made a Goldilocks and the Three Bears. These bears could have belonged to a very different show, and we have repurposed puppets to live in new stories, and I think that is really exciting. So while all of these woodland creatures currently belong to Goldilocks, maybe I hope in 60 years, the woodland creatures might have an entirely different story to tell. And I think that's what's exciting about a puppet, period, is that, yeah, it gets built for one particular show, but it might have 1,000 stories it could tell. And I think that's been the beauty of the Titchener collection, is that They didn't stop at the one story they told the first time. They kept telling stories.
When Goldilocks has tasted the Junior's porridge and eats it all up, and she is filled with so much happiness, she's in this place that she feels completely comfortable. She proceeds to jump up and down in Junior's chair. And that type of free, just outward expression allows her, in alignment with the story, to break Junior's chair. And the chair breaks in different phases. But right before the song ends and the chair is completely broken, it's almost as if she's stomping on the chair. You can kind of hear that in the story. And it's a small, subtle thing if you're listening to it, but it's there. But you can still hear that cracking of the wood as she's jumping and stomping on it. That's one of my favorite things because it plays into her level of obliviousness to what's actually happening, to how she's actually focused so much on what she's experiencing on the inside that she's completely forgotten what kind of things that she's done in that space. That's a really fun moment for me.
Happiness is what I've got.
I actually really enjoyed the creativity of how they were managing in the kitchen, all of the different props coming apart with like the chair falling apart, just all the manipulation of the marionettes, but also the creativity that went into building the breakaway props was really cool.
My favorite part was when Papa Bear was cooking in the kitchen.
Yes, Papa Bear was very funny, especially his song that he did. I thought that was a great character.
I enjoyed that. It was really funny. I liked the part when the little bear woke the girl up. Probably like when Baby Bear was roared and then Goldilocks just jumped out the window. When Goldilocks jumped out the window. I loved when the bears were noticing everything. I just like all of it, Polly.
Oh, well, it's a joy to perform for them. We've got all kinds of folks coming, families, moms and dads bring their children, grandparents come, and nannies who bring their children. We get all walks of life, and we get people from far away to right around the corner. We get people who come every week. Sometimes they come to both shows or all 3 shows if it's a 3-show day. And they'll come and they'll just stay over and over. They'll go get a muffin and come back, and then they'll go get a muffin and come back.
We try to come once a month or so, especially because they come around the city. So we're at the public libraries all the time.
Oh yeah, I try to never miss a Wishing Chair production.
We've been coming ever since they were born, almost, just when they were tiny, and so now they're 12 and almost 15, so we've been coming a while.
I have been coming here since I was like very small, so we've seen many shows here.
We live outside of Nashville, but we came today, and then I was really excited. We weren't planning on coming to the puppet show, but then we saw it was starting at this time, so it was perfect, and they seemed to love it.
I've seen other shows on the puppet truck out in the world, and we've seen a few at other branches, but mostly here at the downtown library.
I've been coming here since I was born.
We've been to a few other shows, so my kids, I brought them when they were littler. I think it was to Peter and the Wolf, and we've been to a few things at different library branches.
But we see children who have they're like a little sponge, they just absorb what we offer, and that's part of the job, is to make sure that this is a place of fun and wonder, and that people want to come here. We want people to know that the library is cool. And it's a good place. It's their library, and it's an important institution for our society. With like the internet, there's a lot of argument, I guess, against oh well, I don't need to go research that. I can just look it up on my phone, or I don't need to go to the library. I can just have a book delivered by that big company with the truck. So what I would like to say to that is, no, come to your library, be a part of a community, and experience something for real. A puppet show, for example, it's not just a presentation that the library puts on for education or entertainment. It's a connection. It's something where you feel included, and you get to experience something that is unique to this city. It's a very special treat that we have this. Not every city has it, and I think it's something that If you've never been here before, you'll want to know what you got. And if you have been here before, you know you're coming back.
Well, that it's got so many great resources. We've got the local history room back there with all of the archives of the Nashville Banner and the Tennessean. We've got such a fantastically just imaginative kids section here with the climbing wall and the in space playground made to look like the skyline. I mean, this is the coolest library that I think I've seen anywhere in the nation.
If you've never experienced a puppet show, it's not too late. This is for the young and for the young at heart. Goldilocks and the Nashville Public Library has always stood as an institution that opens itself to individuals seeking to expand their understanding of the world around them, to expand their knowledge of the world, but also to expand and grow themselves. And this story, the lessons that are locked within it, can do that very, very thing. Wishing Chair Productions has always stood to offer programming that enriches the lives of its citizens and those that are visiting our wonderful city. So the library stands firm in our commitment and welcome everyone to experience Goldilocks here in the Children's Theater, and tell friends, because there's usually always something going on here at the library. If you don't have a library card, grab one and you won't be disappointed.
Thank you so much, NPL and Wishing Chair, for putting on productions like this. It's so great to come and see these.
Thank you, Wishing Chair, for putting on shows like this.
Thank you, Nashville Library.
Thank you, Nashville Library, and for the puppet show.
Thank you so much, Nashville Public Library, for putting on these shows and bringing people together and telling amazing stories.
Thank you, Nashville Public Library. Thank you, library.
Thank you, Wishing Chair and Nashville Public Library, for putting on such great shows, and we really enjoy them.
Thank you to the library.